Okay, so today we're going to be going from inlet vane for fan speed control or static pressure control over to these VFDs for fan speed and static pressure control. So starting here at the zone controller, A1 is my fan speed or inlet vane position output. So that sends a 0 to 10 signal over to the inlet vanes currently. So we've got supply fan inlet vanes and we've got return fan inlet vanes. So here is the return fan and the return fan VFD, which was newly installed. This is the supply fan VFD, and here you can see the return fan inlet vanes. And let's look at the supply fan inlet vanes just in case you've never seen them. So here's the supply fan. Those are the inlet vanes. They are currently closed. So what I need to do is lock them in an open position because the new VFD will be controlling the fan speed from now on. So what I've done is I've come over to this actuator which controls these inlet vanes, and I've gotten a 10mm socket and I got it up in there, and I loosened those bolts. Now that they're loose, I can grab this and move it. You can see what these inlet vanes do. So I need to lock these wide open. So the inlet vanes will swirl the air. So the fan still runs at 100%, but the inlet vanes can modulate open or closed to reduce the amount of air, reduce the CFM through the fan, and you can control your static pressure that way. So now that I've got them in an open position, oh, the other thing I should mention is I've disabled this actuator and it's spring return. You can see the spring return symbol right there. Spring return counterclock, or spring return clockwise. So what I did was I cut the common. So there used to be a black wire there. I've cut that back, and when I cut that back, the actuator sprung clockwise. So I know that it is dead now, locked in position. So now that I've got these dampers locked in position, I'm just going to tighten the clamp and it will keep it open forever. And I've got to go do the same thing to the return vanes. Okay, so here we are at the return fan, and you can see the return fan inlet vanes there, the inlet vane actuator here. Now the controller is sending 10 volts, and you can verify that between the signal and the common. And I've already done that, so I know the controller is sending 10 volts, and the reason it's sending 10 volts is that I've turned off the fans. So when the fans die, the controller gets no static pressure on the static pressure tubing, and then it opens the inlet vanes all the way, trying to achieve a higher static pressure. So this actuator is all the way open, and the indicator on the shaft also tells me that it's open. So I've got it open, and I've loosened these with a 10mm wrench. And now that I know that the inlet vanes are all the way open, I'm going to break this common, and we'll let the actuator spring return, and then I'll lock it in place. Once it's fixed, I'll lock it in place so that those inlet vanes will just stay open, wide open. Then the next thing I've got to do is run the signal wire for these inlet vanes over to those VFDs so that the VFDs will modulate instead of the inlet vanes modulating. Okay, so that's all the way clockwise. So I'm just going to tighten those down to lock it in place. So I've got my wire run over. It's going to go over to the VFDs. So from this location I can grab my signal and then I can run it to the first VFD and then over to the second VFD. Okay, so down here at the drive, it's an ABB drive. It's kind of one of the newer ones. This one here, 580. So the start-stop signal comes in at the bottom, and it goes to dry contact between terminals 1 and 5. And so you look at the diagram, that's for the bypass there, right? So there's your start-stop signal on the bypass, but we want the drive, and we want that number 2 and number 3 speed reference 0 to 10 volt. So analog input 1 and the analog input ground. And so that is not on the bypass, but up on drive. There it is, A1 and ground. So that's where I'm going to run my speed control signal to. So to get these things open, you need a T20 Torx bit. And you've got 2 screws down below. And then when you pull you turn the disconnect off, and when you pull the bottom panel off, it will expose another screw so you can get the top panel off. You also have to remove this. And remove that first, set it aside, take that screw out, and the panel comes off. Okay, with everything plugged in and powered up, I've got 10 volts coming in on AI1, so that is working. Now I'm going to give it a start-stop command, and we'll see if it runs. Alright, so we got everything put back together. It's running again, and the zone controller is modulating the fan speed based on static pressure. So everything is working as it should. So now we're going to go downstairs and do it again.
Alright.
So the vanes are already open. So now you got to open up that junction box and just cut the common. And when you cut the common, the actuator should move, but the inlet vanes should not, because we've loosened the clamp.
Are we going with black is common?
Yeah,
yeah. You've got white to red, red to white,
right,
white to black.
Yeah.